Silence isn't where people start. Most people start by explaining themselves, by trying to be clear, by assuming that if they just choose the right words, things will eventually make sense. At the beginning, there's patience, there's effort, there's a genuine belief that understanding is just one better conversation away. So they explain what they mean, they explain what they feel, they clarify their intentions, and they repeat themselves when they're misunderstood. They slow down, they rephrase, they give context, not because they enjoy it, but because they care enough to try. But over time, something shifts. The same misunderstandings keep coming back. The same explanations lead to the same outcomes. And gradually, explaining stops feeling like communication and starts feeling like justification, like defending who you are instead of simply being understood. That's usually when silence enters the picture. Not as a reaction and not as a personality trait, but as a response to exhaustion. Because when you've said everything honestly, calmly, and repeatedly, and it still doesn't land, you eventually realize that saying it one more time won't change anything. So silence becomes a boundary. It becomes a way to conserve energy, to stop translating yourself for people who aren't really listening. It's not about giving up on connection, it's about recognizing when effort no longer leads to understanding. That's why when someone grows quiet, it's rarely sudden. It's usually the result of trying for a long time and slowly learning that not every explanation needs to be repeated. At some point, explaining starts to feel heavier than staying quiet. Not because the person doesn't care anymore, but because the effort no longer feels proportional to the outcome. You say something clearly, you mean it honestly, and yet you still find yourself misunderstood, questioned, or asked to justify the same things again. That's when people begin to notice a pattern. Not every conversation is about understanding. Some conversations are about control. Some are about winning. Some are about refusing to see a perspective that doesn't fit a familiar narrative. And once you recognize that pattern, continuing to explain feels less like communication and more like emotional labor. So people adapt. They stop over-clarifying. They stop defending every choice. They stop turning their inner world into a presentation meant to convince others. Silence in that moment isn't passive. It's strategic. It's a quiet way of saying, I don't need to prove this anymore. What looks like withdrawal from the outside is often discernment on the inside. It's the realization that not every misunderstanding deserves your energy, and not every person is owed access to your thoughts. Eventually, silence stops feeling like something you need to justify. It becomes less about withdrawal and more about clarity. You start to understand that not every thought needs to be spoken, and not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. With time, you realize that explaining yourself isn't always a sign of honesty or openness. Sometimes, it's simply a habit you picked up from wanting to be accepted, validated, or understood too quickly. And when that need fades, so does the urgency to explain. This kind of silence isn't heavy. It's calm. It comes from knowing who you are well enough that you don't need constant agreement to feel secure. You still communicate when it matters. You still speak when something is important. But you stop performing clarity for people who aren't willing to meet you halfway. What looks like distance from the outside is often peace on the inside. A quiet confidence that doesn't announce itself. A sense of self that no longer needs to be narrated. And that's the shift most people don't notice when it happens. Silence stops being a reaction and starts becoming a choice. And maybe silence isn't something to fix. Maybe it's what's left when you finally understand yourself. So here's a question. Did you stop explaining because you gave up, or because you finally understood who you are? Tell me in the comments what made you go quiet. Write it down. Sometimes putting it into words matters more than we realize. And if this message struck you, like the video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more conversations like this. We're just getting started.